And I was talking about people that went because they felt very strongly about the monument to Robert E. Lee, a great general. Whether you like it or not, he was one of the great generals. I've spoken to many generals here, right at the White House, and many people thought of the generals. They think that he was maybe their favorite general. People were there protesting the taking down of the monument of Robert E. Lee. Everybody knows that. So Robert E. Lee was a great general. And Abraham Lincoln developed a phobia. He couldn't beat Robert E. Lee. He was going crazy. I don't know if you know this story, but Robert E. Lee was winning battle after battle after battle. And Abraham Lincoln came home. He said, I can't beat Robert E. Lee. And he had all of these generals. They looked great. They were the top of their class at West Point. They were the greatest people. There's only one problem. They didn't know how the hell to win. They didn't know how to fight. They didn't know how. And one day, it was looking really bad. And Lincoln just said, you, hardly knew his name. And they said, don't take him. He's got a drinking problem. And Lincoln said, I don't care what problem he has, you guys aren't winning. And his name was Grant, General Grant.
I just want to take a word about this book. I think there are a good many of you people here, both photographers and representatives of the press, have been going into my office for the past 4.5 years, occasionally. No doubt you've noticed that on the walls there are the prints of 4 men. Men that I consider, in my book, are about the 4 top Americans of the past. They are Franklin, Washington, Lincoln, and Lee. And anybody who ever tries to put me in any other relationship with respect to General Lee is mistaken.
Dear Mr. President, at the Republication Convention, I heard you mention that you have the pictures of 4 great Americans in your office, and that included in these is a picture of Robert E. Lee. I do not understand how any American can include Robert E. Lee as a person to be emulated, and why the President of the United States of America should do so is certainly beyond me. The most outstanding thing that Robert E. Lee did was to devote his best efforts to the destruction of the United States government, and I am sure that you do not say that a person who tries to destroy our government is worthy of being held as one of our heroes. Will you please tell me just why you hold him in such high esteem? Sincerely yours, Leon W. Scott.
Dear Dr. Scott, respecting your August 1st inquiry, calling attention to my often expressed admiration for General Robert E. Lee, I would say, first, that we need to understand that at the time of the war between the states, the issue of secession had remained unresolved for more than 70 years. Men of probity, character, public standing, and unquestioned loyalty, both North and South, had disagreed over this issue as a matter of principle from the day our Constitution was adopted. General Robert E. Lee was, in my estimation, one of the supremely gifted men produced by our nation. He believed unswervingly in the constitutional validity of his cause, which, until 1865, was still an arguable question in America. He was a poised and inspiring leader, true to the high trust reposed in him by millions of his fellow citizens. He was thoughtful, yet demanding of his officers and men, forbearing with captured enemies, but ingenious, unrelenting, and personally courageous in battle, and never disheartened by a reverse or obstacle. Through all his many trials, he remained selfless almost to a fault, and unfailing in his faith in God. Taken altogether, he was noble as a leader and as a man, and unsullied as I read the pages of our history. From deep conviction, I simply say this: a nation of men of Lee's caliber would be unconquerable in spirit and soul. Indeed, to the degree that present-day American youth will strive to emulate his rare qualities, including his devotion to this land as revealed in his painstaking efforts to help heal the nation's wounds once the bitter struggle was over. We, in our own time of danger in a divided world, will be strengthened and our love of freedom sustained. Such are the reasons that I proudly display the picture of this great American on my office wall. Sincerely, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history. You're changing culture.
Hello, I'm Brandon House, and welcome to Worldview Tube's history of Arlington House, the home of General Robert E. Lee. The Arlington House, it's a historic Greek revival mansion nestled within Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. It overlooks the Potomac River and Washington, D.C. The house was built between 1802 and 1818 by George Washington Parke Custis, the step-grandson of George Washington. This house was designed as a living memorial to the nation's first president. Its grand columns and commanding view reflect the young republic's reverence for Washington's legacy. George Washington Parke Custis, born in 1781. He was the grandson of Martha Washington through her first marriage to Daniel Parke Custis. After his father's death, he was raised by George and Martha Washington at Mount Vernon, fostering a deep devotion to his step-grandfather's legacy. In 1802, he began constructing Arlington House on land inherited from his father, intending it as both a home and a shrine to Washington, filled with family heirlooms like china and portraits. A writer and an orator, Custis was known for his theatrical performances and support for the American Colonization Society, though he freed few of his own enslaved people. His wife, Mary Lee Fitzhugh Custis, born in 1788. She came from a prominent Virginia family. Her father, William Fitzhugh, he served in the Continental Congress. An Episcopal lay leader, Mary was deeply religious, fostering her family's spiritual life and supporting education for enslaved individuals at Arlington. She and George married in 1804, and their only surviving child, Mary Anna, married Robert E. Lee. The couple's lives were centered at Arlington, where they entertained guests and raised their family amidst the plantation's operations. On the first floor of Arlington House lies Mr. and Mrs. Custis' chamber, bedroom steeped in both joy and sorrow. This bedroom was where George and Mary Custis spent their final years, and both passed away here in the 1850s. Mary in 1853 and George in 1857. The room, furnished with period pieces like their bed and personal items, reflects their status as the estate's patriarch and matriarch. George loved sharing stories with his grandchildren, while Mary nurtured their religious upbringing. Their granddaughter, Agnes Lee, wrote in 1857, quote, "We miss him more and more every moment. Everything around us reminds us so forcibly of him who has left it forever," end quote. She captured the profound loss that was felt in this space. The chamber, it stands as a poignant reminder of their lives and the legacy they left to their daughter and son-in-law. George Washington Parke Custis and Mary Lee Fitzhugh Custis They were laid to rest on the grounds of Arlington House. Their graves marking the earliest burials of what would become Arlington National Cemetery. George, who died on October 10, 1857, was the first veteran buried on the estate, a fitting tribute to his devotion to Washington's memory. Mary, who passed away in 1853, was also buried here, alongside her husband. Their graves, located near the mansion, well, they symbolize the deep connection between the Custis family and the land that they shaped. These burials predate the cemetery's official establishment in 1864, when Union soldiers began to be interned on the grounds, thus transforming the estate into a national memorial.
Well, it's raining here today at Arlington National Cemetery. We've just been visiting the Arlington House, what is also known as the home of Robert E. Lee, but it was actually founded by his father-in-law and mother-in-law. After some searching, we found their burial plot. George Washington Parke Custis. He was the grandson of Martha Washington, the wife, obviously, of President George Washington. So George Washington Parke Custis, that's who had this house built here on this land, known now as Arlington National Cemetery, in the Arlington House. His wife, Mary Custis. Their daughter married General Robert E. Lee.
In 1857, the estate passed to the daughter of Mr. Custis, Mary Anna Randolph Custis, who married Robert E. Lee in 1831. For 30 years, the Lees called Arlington home, raising their 7 children here. Yet, this was also a plantation dependent on labor of nearly 100 enslaved individuals, whose stories are integral to understanding this place. In April of 1861, as the Civil War loomed, Robert E. Lee faced a heart-wrenching decision right here: to lead the U.S. Army or join his native Virginia. His choice to resign and command Confederate forces marked a turning point, not just for him, but for this house and the land. Seized by Union forces in May of 1861, the estate became a military outpost, and by 1864, burials began on its grounds, birthing Arlington National Cemetery. After the war, the house fell into disrepair until Congress authorized its restoration in 1925. In 1955, it was designated the Custis Lee Mansion, honoring Lee's efforts to heal a divided nation. Today, managed by the National Park Service, Arlington House invites us to explore its rooms, reflect on themes of duty, sacrifice, citizenship, loyalty, slavery, and freedom. So, join us on this journey through history. As we enter the White Parlor, we step into a room that evolved with the needs of the Lee family. Originally a storage space, painting studio, and a playroom for the Lee children, it was transformed in 1855 by Robert E. Lee into the main parlor for entertaining guests. The elegant white decor with period furnishings like upholstered chairs and ornate tables, well, it reflects the family's social aspirations. This room was a hub of hospitality where the Lees welcomed neighbors, dignitaries, and friends. Imagine the laughter of children echoing here in its early days, contrasted with the formal gatherings of the 1850s as the nation edged toward conflict. The parlor's transformation, well, it mirrors the Lees and their efforts to maintain grace and stability in turbulent times. Moving to the family parlor, we stand in a space rich with personal and historical significance. It was here on June 30th, 1831, that Robert E. Lee and Mary Custis exchanged vows, beginning their life together. A portrait of Mary, painted in her youth, well, it hangs above the fireplace. Her gaze, a constant presence in this room. The family parlor was the heart of daily life, where the Lees gathered for morning prayer and evening prayers, shared stories, and hosted guests. Remarkably, this room also witnessed the weddings of enslaved couples. Mariah Carter and Charles Syphax in 1821, and Selena Norris and Thornton Gray later on. Ceremonies officiated by the same Episcopal minister who married the Lees. These events highlight the complex social dynamics of Arlington House, where the lives of the free and enslaved intertwine. The room's furnishings, including reproduction paintings and period furniture, they invoke the warmth and complexity of these gatherings. The dining room, it was the center of family meals and formal entertaining. At its heart is a table set with china, once owned by George and Martha Washington. It was cherished. It was an heirloom that Mary Custis Lee inherited from her family. These delicate pieces, adorned with intricate patterns, connect this room to the nation's founding era. Here the Lees shared meals with their children and entertained prominent guests, blending everyday family life with their status as a leading Virginia family. The room's decor, with its elegant table settings and reproduction artwork, reflects both their personal warmth and their historical legacy. As we linger here, we can almost hear the clink of china and the murmur of conversations from a bygone era. As I stood there looking into the dining room, I couldn't help but contemplate the conversations that were held in that room by many people, including Robert E. Lee and Andrew Jackson of my home state of Tennessee. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
In the morning room, located in the south wing, we encounter a space that adapted to the creative and practical needs of its occupants. Originally, it was the formal dining room. It became George Washington Parke Custis' painting studio, where he pursued his passion for art, creating works that celebrated American history. By 1850, it served as Mary Lee's study and office, where she managed the household affairs and expressed her own creativity. The room's furnishings, including a writing desk and period art supplies. It reflects its dual role as a space for both artistic expression and estate management. Mary's presence here underscores her role as a capable partner to Robert E. Lee. She oversaw the plantation during his frequent military assignments. The office and studio. It is a room of profound historical weight. It was here, at this very desk, that Robert E. Lee penned his resignation letter from the U.S. Army on April 20th, 1861. He chose to defend Virginia as the Civil War began. This decision was made in the quiet of this room, and it altered the course of his life and the nation's history. Remarkably, this same desk was used by President Gerald Ford in 1975 to sign a resolution restoring Lee's U.S. citizenship, a symbolic act of national reconciliation. The room's simple furnishings, including the desk and period writing tools, they stand as witnesses to these pivotal moments, bridging the divide between conflict and healing. Though typically closed to visitors, the second floor offers a glimpse into the private lives of the Lee family. In their bedroom, we find the original bed where Robert and Mary Lee rested, a tangible link to their personal moments. About 1/3 of the home's furnishings, including this bed, are original, while most paintings are reproductions, preserving the historical essence of the space. The second floor also housed bedrooms for the Lee children and sitting areas where they studied and played. These private quarters were a sanctuary for the family, offering solace amidst the growing tensions of the pre-war years. As we imagine the Lees in these intimate spaces, we connect with their humanity and the challenges they faced. Now we turn our attention to a smaller yet profoundly significant structure nearby, the Robert E. Lee Museum. It's housed in what was once said to be a humble potting shed. When we were there, we almost passed it by. It was only out of pure curiosity that I stopped and said to my wife and son, "What is this building?" It was very small. I didn't have a clue as to what it was. I wasn't sure we were even supposed to enter this little building. But curiosity got the best of me. I opened the door, and to my amazement, this little shed was filled with, well, extremely interesting and I think important heirlooms of Robert E. Lee. Join us as we explore these treasures and the stories they tell, connecting us to a pivotal era in American history. As we step inside the Robert E. Lee Museum, we are greeted by a carefully curated collection of artifacts that span Lee's personal and public life. Each item displayed in this modest space, well, it tells a unique story, connecting us to the man behind the legend and the historical context of his time. One of the most significant artifacts here is a handwritten copy of Robert E. Lee's resignation letter from the U.S. Army. It was dated April 20th, 1861. It was in Arlington House's office that Lee penned this letter, marking his decision to leave the Army that he had served for 36 years and thus join the Confederate cause. The letter, addressed to General Winfield Scott, his mentor and friend. It reads in part, quote, "I have felt that I ought not longer to retain my commission in the Army, save in the defense of my native state. I never desire again to draw my sword," end quote. This document, it symbolizes the profound conflict that Lee faced between his loyalty to the United States and his allegiance to Virginia, a decision that altered his life and the nation's history. Displayed in a protective case, it invites us to reflect on the personal and moral dilemmas of the Civil War era. Displayed alongside the letter is one of Lee's personal guns, a tangible link to his military career. As a career officer in the U.S. Army before the war and later as a Confederate general, Lee's life was deeply intertwined with military service. This firearm, likely used during his time in the field, reflects his role as a skilled and strategic leader whose decisions shaped the course of the Civil War. The gun, with its worn grip and historical weight, stands as a reminder of the conflict that defined Lee's legacy and the nation's history. Another deep personal item is Lee's Bible, which he carried with him during the Civil War. For Lee, faith was a cornerstone of his life, providing comfort and guidance during the turbulent years of conflict. This Bible, with its worn pages and possible notes, offers a glimpse into the spiritual side of a man often remembered for his military skills. Displayed in a case, it reminds us that even in the midst of war, Robert E. Lee sought solace in his faith, finding strength in the words and pages of the Bible. In a small case, we find a lock of General Lee's hair, a memento from the Victorian era when keeping tokens of loved ones was a common practice. Finally, the museum houses a set of dishes inherited from Martha Washington and passed down through the Custis family to Mary Custis Lee, Robert E. Lee's wife. These delicate pieces, adorned with intricate patterns, link Arlington House to Mount Vernon, the home of George Washington. They highlight the interconnectedness of these prominent Virginia families. George Washington Parke Custis, Mary's father, he built Arlington House as a memorial, as we said, to his step-grandfather, George Washington. And these dishes, well, they serve as a tangible connection to America's founding era. Displayed eloquently, they invoke the historical legacy that the Lees inherited and preserved. Each of these artifacts in the Robert E. Lee Museum, well, they tell a story, not just about Robert E. Lee, but of the broader history of America during a time of great division and change. From the weighty decisions of resignation to the intimate tokens of family life, these items offer a multifaceted view of a man whose legacy continues to be debated and studied. The museum also acknowledges the stories of the enslaved individuals who lived and worked at Arlington, thus providing a more complete picture of this historic site.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisaw collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
Upon the death of George Custis in 1857, Robert E. Lee became executor of his estate and thus inherited nearly 200 enslaved people across Arlington, White House, and Roman Coke plantations. The will of Mr. Custis mandated their emancipation within 5 years, but the estate was burdened with significant debts. Lee was tasked with stabilizing the finances of the plantation, and thus, sometimes, he hired out the slaves to separate families, which led to resistance from those aware of their impending freedom. He petitioned courts to extend his control, believing more time was needed to clear the debts. In 1863, Lee fulfilled the will's terms, freeing the slaves just after the Emancipation Proclamation. Lee's views on slavery, they were complex, but they were also reflective of his time. In a December 27, 1856 letter to his wife, Lee wrote, quote, "There are few, I believe, in this enlightened age who will not acknowledge that slavery as an institution is a moral and political evil in any country," end quote. At the end of the war, Lee expressed relief at slavery's end, stating in an 1865 letter to his cousin Marquis Williams, quote, "I am rejoiced that slavery is abolished. I believe it will be greatly for the interest of the South," end quote. These quotes reveal a man torn between personal morality and societal norms, navigating the economic realities of a debt-ridden plantation as well. Selina Norris Gray, born in 1823. She was a second-generation enslaved woman at Arlington House, daughter of Leonard and Sally Norris. As Mary Custis Lee's personal maid and later head housekeeper, she played a pivotal role during the Civil War. When the Lees evacuated Arlington in May of 1861 due to Union occupation, Mary entrusted Selina with the household keys, tasking her with protecting the family's possessions, including priceless Washington heirlooms like china and furniture. As Union soldiers occupied the estate, cutting down trees and looting items, Selina noticed artifacts disappearing. She boldly confronted soldiers, declaring they should not touch Mrs. Lee's things, and appealed to Union General Irvin McDowell, ensuring many heirlooms were sent to the Patent Office for safekeeping. After the war, Selina remained connected to the Lees. In November of 1872, he wrote to Mary Custis Lee, describing Arlington's transformation. Quote, "It is a most lovely place. Now everywhere around, it looks beautiful. There is not a tree to be seen except in the cemetery. Your things at the time of the war was taken away by everybody," end quote. Her letter, it expressed both the loss of the estate's former glory and her hope to see Mrs. Lee return, reflecting her loyalty despite her enslaved status. Selina's actions and correspondence, they highlight the contributions of enslaved individuals to Arlington's history, and it's often overlooked in traditional narratives. As we have already noted, in April of 1861, as the Civil War began, Robert E. Lee faced a heart-wrenching decision there at Arlington House. Resigning from the U.S. Army to join the Confederacy, he thus left his home vulnerable due to its strategic location, just 3 miles from the White House. On May 24, 1861, Union forces occupied Arlington House, transforming the plantation into a military stronghold to protect Washington, D.C. Mary Custis Lee, having been warned of the impending occupation, fled with their children, never to return as residents. By 1864, General Montgomery C. Meigs ordered burials on the estate's grounds, thus ensuring the Lees could not reclaim their home. This act, it birthed Arlington National Cemetery, a poignant symbol of the war's toll. The Lee family, they received no compensation during Lee's lifetime, with payment delayed until the 1880s, long after his death. Lee lamented the loss, writing in 1861, quote, "It is painful to think of the occupation of our home by strangers, end quote. The seizure of Arlington House, it marked a profound personal loss, severing Lee's ties to the estate, an estate that he had called home for 30 years. After surrendering at Appomattox Courthouse on April 9, 1865, Lee returned to Richmond, Virginia, facing an uncertain future.
Well done, gentlemen. Indeed, a momentous occasion.
Pardoned by President Lincoln, Lee was not arrested or punished for his Confederate service, though he did lose his right to vote and some property. In September of 1865, Lee accepted the presidency of Washington College in Lexington, Virginia. It was a struggling institution with a modest salary of $1,500 a year. He chose this role believing it inappropriate to profit from his wartime fame, and dedicated himself to educating young men to rebuild the nation. At Washington College, Lee transformed the institution, introducing innovative programs in journalism, engineering, and law, and linking them with liberal arts. He emphasized student self-governance, laying the foundation for the university's honor system. Recruiting students from both North and South, Lee sought to foster national unity, stating in 1865, quote, "I think it is the duty of every citizen in the present condition of the country to do all in his power to aid in the restoration of peace and harmony," end quote. His leadership revitalized the college, which was renamed Washington and Lee University after his death. Lee's post-war life, well, it was marked by personal and financial hardships. The loss of Arlington House left his family displaced, and they lived modestly in Lexington. In 1865, Lee signed an amnesty oath to restore his U.S. citizenship, encouraging other Confederates to do the same. However, the oath was misplaced, and he remained without full citizenship at his death. His health declined, and on October 12, 1870, Lee died of heart failure in Lexington at the age of 63. He was buried in the University Chapel, now part of Washington and Lee University. He was buried alongside his family. Lee's legacy is complex, but should be studied in light of the times. His efforts to promote reconciliation, it earned him praise, with contemporaries noting that his role was vital in restoring peace after a war that claimed the lives of 620,000 Americans. Lee's post-war years, they reflect a man navigating personal loss while striving to heal a divided nation. Pierre Charles L'Enfant, often referred to as Peter Charles L'Enfant, he was a French-born engineer and architect whose visionary design of Washington, D.C. left an indelible mark on the nation's capital. His burial in front of Arlington House, now part of Arlington National Cemetery, is a significant historical detail, especially given Arlington House's association with Robert E. Lee and its transformation during and after the Civil War. Born on August 2nd, 1754 in Paris, France, Pierre Charles L'Enfant came to America in 1777 during the Revolutionary War. He joined the Continental Army as a volunteer. He served with distinction, obtaining the rank of Major of Engineers, and he worked under figures like the Marquis de Lafayette. After the war, his reputation grew through civil engineering projects, notably redesigning New York City's City Hall. In 1791, President George Washington commissioned him to design the new federal city on the Potomac River, now Washington, D.C. Despite his contributions, L'Enfant faced financial struggles and professional setbacks, dying on June 14, 1825, with minimal assets. He was initially buried in an unmarked grave on Digges Farm, also known as Green Hill in Prince George's County, Maryland. L'Enfant's burial site was not forgotten, and appreciation for his achievements, well, they grew in the decades following his death. In 1908, the Board of Commissioners of the City of Washington, they requested a suitable burial site at Arlington Cemetery. And on December 17, 1908, Secretary of War Luke E. Wright approved the relocation. This prominent location was chosen to honor his contributions, offering a panoramic view of Washington, D.C., the city he designed. The gravesite was formally dedicated with a monument in 1911, further cementing his legacy. L'Enfant's burial at Arlington House serves as a lasting tribute to his visionary contributions to American urban planning. His gravesite, with its view of Washington, D.C., symbolizes the enduring impact of his design, which shaped the nation's capital. The relocation in 1909, initiated by the D.C. Board of Commissioners and approved by the Secretary of War, well, it reflects a growing recognition of his role. This act also aligns with the broader history of Arlington National Cemetery, which honors notable figures, including military and civilian leaders.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house, very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, you know, I know you and Brandon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private. So you people out there who are sitting on your hands when Wes and I are sending you these requests and Brandon and you are talking to you, you better get active because you're going to pay me $4,000 an ounce the end of the year. Trust me.
You better get your. I highly suggest you get your free packet. You don't have to do anything. It's free, no obligation. Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com, or just text Wes and give him your name and address and say, I want the free packet. That's all you got to do. 602-558-8585, 602-558-8585. Robert E. Lee's loss of Arlington House was a profound personal blow, yet it did not define his final years. As president of Washington College, Lee channeled his energies into education, fostering reconciliation, and shaping a new generation. Despite losing his home, voting rights, and facing health challenges, Lee's commitment to unity, well, it left a lasting impact. His death in 1870, it marked the end of a life dedicated to rebuilding. But debates about his legacy persist, reflecting the complexities of America's Civil War era. Arlington House, now a national memorial. It stands as a reminder of both loss and resilience, inviting us to reflect on a pivotal challenge in America's history. Arlington House, it is more than a historic home. It is a lens through which we view America's complex past. The lives of George and Mary Custis intertwined with Washington's legacy, while it shaped the estate's early years. The deaths of Mr. and Mrs. Custis and their burials on the grounds marked the beginning of Arlington's transformation into a national cemetery. Robert E. Lee's management of the inherited enslaved people, and his conflicted views on slavery, well, they give us an insight into the moral and economic dilemmas of his era. Selina Gray's courage in preserving the Lee family's possessions and her post-war correspondence with Mary Custis Lee, well, that underscores the vital roles played by enslaved individuals. And yet, what was clearly a unique and special relationship between the two. Today, Arlington House invites us to reflect on duty, sacrifice, slavery, freedom, and the full spectrum of American history. And yet, I'm afraid the full spectrum of American history is often not being considered when the topic is Robert E. Lee. Sadly, revisionist historians are leaving out the complexities of the issues of the day, the moral dilemmas, and even the serious and personal convictions that Robert E. Lee himself had about slavery. Sadly, many of the prominent historical figures of the South are maligned, and their stories are used to divide Americans. You see, many of these figures, they believe strongly in state rights. They believe strongly in the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Powers the federal government has are limited and expressed, and the unlisted powers belong to the states and respective people thereof. Many individuals, like Robert E. Lee, saw the states, in his case Virginia, as a sovereign state, and believe that the role of the federal government should indeed be limited. Sadly, often when figures like Robert E. Lee are discussed, these facts are left out of the discussion. And thus, great American men like Robert E. Lee are diminished, and their true concerns about what the Civil War was really all about are wiped away. But that is the goal of progressives, of Marxists, who want a strong federal government that overshadows state rights and individual liberties and freedom. Robert E. Lee, indeed, an American historical figure that should be studied in the context of his times and his complete worldview. Thank you for joining us for Worldview Tube's history of the Arlington House and Robert E. Lee.